This video is part of a presentation I'm doing showing ideas for how you can get started introducing a Kafka event backbone into your existing application environment. Links and details below. In this demo, I'm going to show how you can easily make the APIs that you're already using available on your new event backbone. For the purposes of this demo, I'm going to be using a couple of APIs, Twitter and a stock price service called AlphaVantage, and they're going to represent existing APIs I'm using in my business. Just pretend that they are any APIs you're already using that retrieve data that could be made available through a new event backbone. I'm going to be using Kafka Connect for this demo, which is a framework for getting data in and out of Kafka. So the first thing I need to do is to define my Kafka Connect cluster. I'm going to call it Demo Connectors. I need it to connect to my Kafka cluster, so I'm just going to go to get, as I'm running it inside OpenShift, the internal address is fine, so I'll paste that in there. Next thing I need are some credentials that this is going to use to access Kafka. So I'll go to generate credentials. I'm going to go with the username and password. This is going to be used by my Kafka Connect workers. So I'll call it Kafka Connect creds. And I'm just, in the interest of time, I'm going to keep this simple and just give it permission to write to every topic, because I'm going to use this for several things. So here's my username. I'll paste that in there. And I need the password available in a secret. Now this is already done for me, but just to show you what I mean, if I get the user that I've just created, it's in my event streams namespace, what you can see in the status, it will show me the name of the secret it's created for me that contains the password. And I could have guessed, because it is actually, assuming there's no special characters, it's the same as the username. But at least you know now where to go and find it if you need it. But yeah, I'll put in the name for the secret where the password can be found into there. I need some other passwords as well, some API keys for my external APIs. So I'm going to add them in here. So I'm going to link in the secrets where I'm going to put the API keys for the APIs that I want to add. So first one, this is the stock price one, the API called AlphaVantage. So I've prepared it already. I don't want to show you my API key, but so it's in a file. So I'm just going to apply this YAML file. And this, here we go. And now I have a secret called AlphaVantage with my API key for the AlphaVantage API. I just need to do the same now for Twitter. So I'll call this one Twitter. And again, I'm going to provide the credentials through a secret with the name. And again, I've got all of this ready in a file so that you don't see my credentials. So I'm just going to apply that now. And now I've got a secret called Twitter with my OAuth credentials for the Twitter API. And that should be everything I need. So now all I need to do is apply this and create myself my Kafka Connect cluster, which is the worker pods where it's going to do the job of fetching data from the external APIs and bringing them into my event backbone. Now this can take a while to start up, so if what I'm waiting for is that ready status to go true. So depending on how busy your cluster is, you might need to wait 30 seconds, a minute or something like that for it to become ready. I'll keep trying though. Here we go, now it's ready. So I need to build my worker pods so that they have the jars for my new connectors in. So if I get this Kafka Connect S2I that I've created, the field I'm interested in is called the build config name. So I'll just use a JSON path to get that out. And I could have guessed the name. It's going to be the name of my Kafka Connect demo connectors with -connect on the end. So I've already, to save time, I've downloaded the jars for the two connector APIs I'm using. So I've got a folder called My Plugins, and in there I've got a folder for all the Twitter jars and a folder for the stock price jar. So now what I need to do is build a custom image that can run Kafka Connect that includes all of these jars for that know how to access the API that I want. So I'm going to do a start build, the name of my build config, put it in the event streams namespace, and then I just need to give it the location of the folder where I've got all of these jars ready. So what this does is it will upload all of these jars to a job that will run on the OpenShift cluster, and that job is going to build a new image that is a new Docker image that's going to be used by my Kafka Connect workers. So what this gives me is a nice way of building custom images that support any of the huge number of Connect jars that are available, and I'll show you where you can go and find some at the end of this demo. But for now, the main thing to recognize is I've built a custom image with the jars that I'll need. So now that I've got the worker pods available, I just need to define my connectors. I'm going to have two of them. The first one I'm going to use for Twitter, and I've already prepared this, but just to show you what I've done, I'm going to call it tweets Kafka. It's going to run in the worker pods for the demo connectors Kafka Connect instance. It's going to send messages to the Twitter Kafka topic, and it's going to get any tweets that mention the word Kafka. The credentials that it needs for accessing Twitter are all coming from that secret you saw me create earlier. Keeping it in a secret, keeping it separate from the config is nice. And here I've say, what do I want the data to look like? So I want the key to be a string, I want the payload to be JSON. That keeps it nice and simple. So if I just apply this, then that work pod with the custom image that I created before is now going to start up this new connector. It can take a few seconds to start up. So while that's going, I will start up the next connector as well, and then we'll look at the topics after they're both submitted. So for the next connector, this is going to be the stock prices one. I'm going to call this one stock prices IBM. And again, it's going to run in the same pool of workers that I set up before. It's going to write to the topic stock prices IBM, and it's going to look for any price updates to the IBM price, and it's going to use that API key in the AlphaVantage secret. And again, I'm going to go with a JSON payload, makes it nice and easy to read. So I'm just going to apply this definition, and as you can see, no custom code needed. It's all just config. And the config will be specific to whichever connector, whichever API that you're interested in, but it's generally quite straightforward. So if I close this, after a short wait, topics will start to appear with the events being fetched from those remote APIs. The first one's ready, so this is from my Twitter one. So any tweets that mention the word Kafka should start to show up as events on this topic. And I can see this, I'm not sure where Kafka was mentioned, but somewhere in that tweet will have mentioned Kafka. Oh, and another one has already appeared. And looking at this, well, this mentions Franz Kafka. It's not quite what I had in mind, but you can see the basic idea. Actually, if I do a tweet myself, it's easier to show it all working. So I'll just quickly go to Twitter, and I'll post something that will probably confuse anyone that's paying attention. So I'll just say to ignore this. So if I send this and then go back, hopefully that will be picked up by my connector and it will be pulled onto the Twitter. Yeah, actually, oh, there's been another one as well. Let's see, is mine the most recent? Yes, there we go. So that was my tweet, Kafka, ignore this, recording a demo. So as you can see, actually, I'll quickly delete this so that I don't confuse anyone. There we go. So I now have my topic with events on my event backbone from some external API. And I can see my other topic is ready now as well with stock prices. But this has got loads of events on, so it's fetched quite a few of the historic events. But what I've got each event here is anytime there's been a change in the stock price for this particular stock, I can see the financial details of that as a message on the topic. So I mentioned that I would talk about where you can get these connectors from, because there's a huge number of connectors to choose from. So a couple of good places to start looking. IBM has a connector catalog in the event streams documentation with a number of connectors you can get from IBM. Confluent also have their connector hub, where you can find a huge number of connectors that you can get from them. And all of these will work on any Kafka. They're not sort of specific. If you can't find a connector specific to the system or the API you want to access, it's really easy to write your own. So that stock prices one that I demoed was actually a connector I wrote myself. And because the Kafka Connect framework does all the hard work of the Kafka specific work, all you really need to add is the bits that's specific to your own particular API or external system. So it's really easy to contribute new ones. Each individual connector, I mentioned before, will have its own specific configuration, but each one will have some documentation that will tell you what config parameters are needed. So you just use that to know what fields to fill in into your specification. But the point is that you can fetch data from these external APIs and bring them into your event backbone generally without needing to write any code, just through doing some simple configuration with the right credentials and connection information.